Welcome to the Experts Podcast, where we take you behind the scenes of what it really means to be in the media. Featuring interviews with media-stable experts and some of Australia's prominent media. We'll break down some of the myths, the fears, the skills and the knowledge needed to succeed in the media. The Experts Podcast is for the business owner, communicator, PR professional, leader of industry, or anyone looking to develop their profile to be a recognised expert. The Experts Podcast is powered by Media Stable. Hello everybody, welcome to another season of the Experts Podcast. Nick Hayes from Media Stable here, and I've got Carmen Braidwood.
Hi Nick, great to be joining you. How are you?
Oh, I'm awesome, Carmen. Just really excited for 2022.
Me too.
Looking forward to your input and smashing out some of these experts in media, because it's a big year. It's a challenging year for many businesses.
Yeah, it's going to be a different one yet again. Who knows what's in store for us in the West, and over on the East Coast, we've got a lot to learn from you as well.
Yeah, a lot to learn. You've been out there, you've been doing it hard, and we've got it coming here. But we are all one country, and we're going to get through this. And,
all in this together.
And hopefully if you're listening to the Experts Podcast, you're looking to actually improve your communication, looking to get yourself out there, and then we're going to help you, guide you, get some of the inside secrets and get something that some of the people that are out there doing it and doing it well, what's their little sugar and spice? What's their little secrets that they use to get out there?
Yeah, it really helps to hear how other people have done it, because you might be feeling like you're lacking confidence when it comes to this kind of thing, because it is a big thing to put yourself out there, and you might just need a little boost of support. And
by the way, no better person to be working with when you need confidence in front of the media than Carmen Braidwood. There's a little plug.
And that's it. Owned media or your earned media. I'll happily step in there.
Right. Well, we've got a big one here. We've got Fran Hughes. Now, Fran is from Nexia, Australia. She's got her own media profile out there. She's in the West Australian. She does a little bit of 6PR. She's moving and grooving, and she's a bit of a speaker's mentor as well, a bit of a president down there. Hello, Fran. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your position there, not just at Nexia, but also too from Speakers Direct. Is it Speakers Direct, isn't it? Is it you're the president of?
Yeah, great. So the community that I head up is Speakers Tribe Global. We are a group of emerging speakers all around the world. Anything from the UK, US, New Zealand, Asia, and also every state here in Australia.
Wow.
And we really built this community up as a need for emerging speakers wanting to kind of create and build up their profile 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And today we're global, we're all around the world.
You do really great things for emergent speakers, like you point out, and I think that speaks to your superpower, Fran. Nick, you might not know this, but Fran is among one of the several businesswomen who I met with really early after I was axed on radio back at 96 FM in 2017.
For those of you in the West, know a lot about Carmen Braidwood's axing, but if you're in the East Coast, it was probably a high-rating program. God, where did she go? But now she's on the Experts Podcast.
Yeah, lucky me. I've fallen
things are only going
stars.
Up for you.
No, they are. It turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened. But I was sitting there and thinking, I've got this little idea to coach businesses to speak on camera. Do you reckon it'll work? Fran was one of those people who said, of course it'll work. And I said, but who am I to teach people that? I'm a radio person. She goes, but we value what you have to say. Do you find that is a common thing amongst early speakers, people who are starting to put themselves out there, that self-doubt that their expertise is of value?
Yeah, absolutely, Carmen. That's a great point. And I say this often enough, in that there is something burning inside of a speaker or someone who has something to share to the world, whether it is, an experience, a lived experience, or an antidote, or, something they've found that everyone else could kind of benefit from. But what holds them back, as you and I know, Carmen, is that confidence to be able to articulate the message and get it out into the world. So with that in mind, my superpower, as you say.
It is a superpower.
Is to really nurture and encourage small business owners. And I call them speakers, really. An emerging speaker is a small business starting to bloom and grow. And for them to really step through the training to be able to get their message out there. and also then embrace something, a platform like media. How do
Yep.
you get your message out there to media, and how do you do it confidently? And so that's the part that really kind of fulfills me.
I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people that are listening to this, because there is a bit of doubt. There's a bit of imposter syndrome that kicks in, and you're not really sure. And I've always found this, and I'd love to run this by you both, is that media training for me is not necessarily about delivering the best performance or the most polished performance. It's more about just understanding what's required of you and what the media is looking to get. Understanding the behind the scenes, because I think the reason we get so nervous around working with media is that we fear that we're going to mess up. We fear that we're going to say something, or one of our colleagues is going to have a crack at us for something, and we're not really that confident about it, or confident in ourselves to be able to deal with that. And I think that's the real issues that comes from people being doubtful of whether they can actually put themselves up there.
Well, I can share my story, Nick, if I could.
Please.
I mean, I think back to 4 years ago. Look, I head up a wealth management business.
And you're the head of wealth. I mean, what a title. She's the leader of
How much
wealth.
money's in your wallet right now, Fran?
Well, I'll share about it when you do listen into some of my media segments.
That's true. Go on.
But coming back to it, sometimes you have this self-doubt. To your point, Nick, it's you want to be the absolute most professional person on media. You want to be able to articulate that kind of, that message and come across as being really credible. I remember that one time that I call from you at 11 o'clock in the morning to appear on, I think it was Channel 9 at 4 o'clock that afternoon. And I went into panic mode.
Oh.
No, what do I do? What do I say? How do I bring this all together? Needless to say, and I can share this with your audience, I absolutely flopped. And from then on, I was just absolutely scared of being on media.
Yeah.
But the one thing I could encourage every single expert out there, or even executive or professional, is to seek the advice or coach. And this is where Carmen comes into it. So I look at the both of you and I think about where 4 years has gone.
It's been a journey, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And from that point of view, getting someone like Carmen to step me through, what is that about? And what I learned from you, Nick, as well, is really to observe the business of media. What is it that they need? Because it's not about us really as the experts. It's about what we can deliver. How can we add value to media? Because value is not value until you're solving the problem of your listener.
Oh, wow.
Love that, Jeepers. What a good mentor you must have been there, Carmen. It was like it was straight from the textbook. Just absolutely beautiful, because you've got to be a media asset.
Yes.
You've got to think like that.
You've got to remember, as Fran says there, that it's not about you. It's about what you're providing to the media, and what are they focused on? They're focusing on their listener or their viewer at every single stage.
Yep.
And I had to learn the hard way as a presenter that it wasn't about me. It's the same thing. We all go through that journey. We make it about how our hair looks. To those who don't know my background, I went from radio to do a lot more TV. And so I was really obsessed with the way I looked, and I felt like I had to be a certain way and I had to perform a certain way. So I really relate to business owners who feel that way.
Yeah.
And I remember my frustration as a regular radio presenter when I'd get a client who would want to come on radio and do an interview, and they'd hand us a script. And I'd be like, no, this is going to harm your business more than it's going to help your business. Let us just ask you questions. Please answer them just honestly. You really have to stuff up hard to stuff up.
Yeah.
And if you do stuff up, you've got to do what Fran did. You've got to own it. You've got to look at that stuff up. And what did we do? We watched it. Anything you've done on media that you think you need to just forget, I implore you to get the copy of it and watch it and analyse it and work out how you can do better.
Such a good point, because a lot of people are reluctant to go back and have a listen or have a watch of what they've done. In fact, that they cringe at it, the thought of actually having to do that. Even the sound of their own voice, they get all antsy about it. But you can only get better when you learn from what you've made as a mistake or made a mistake. What was that like, Fran, going back 4 years ago, having a look back at that video? I kind of remember. I don't think you flopped as bad as you think you did. I think, but maybe your expectations and wanting to be the very best at the very beginning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You've got to train for this. This takes time.
It is. It's mastering your craft. But, to your point, I guess as professionals and executives, we always want to be absolutely 100%. So even every little or minute stuff up in our mind is just amplified.
Yeah.
So to your point, Carmen and I watched back the interview, and we kind of just broke it down to, and there's a tip that Carmen did say to me at that time: watch it from a third person perspective, not from you being absolutely critical of yourself.
Yeah.
And once you do that, and most of us who are professionals and executives, we think of it through a very logical sequence. And if you can do it that way and think through, well, what can I better from here? And that's kind of just taken me through and through and build up confidence.
Yeah.
And today, I write for the West Australian. I make myself very much available to Radio 6PR as well as here. But, one of the other areas that I've come to learn, I think this comes back to being around you, Nick, is that it's all about the relationships. If there was anything that I would say to any of my community and speakers, is that you need to consume in order to produce.
Yeah.
In that you got to be in there, you got to understand what the listeners are looking for. You got to understand the actual media. What are they looking? What are they serving? Who's the master that they're serving? Mm-hmm. And if you can actually build out content that's going to really just plug in and amplify and enhance what they're already doing, you're going to be there for a long term.
Oh, that's gold, Carmen.
Exactly.
Absolute gold.
Spot on. So Fran, to our East Coast listeners, is on Oliver Peterson's Perth Live. So that's the drive show on 6PR. And Ollie expects a very high standard from his experts. He wants them to be listeners to the show. He wants them to sound like they're part of the community and they're weighing in on things. So if you can jump on as an expert, and I loved this when I was at 6PR. I loved it when someone who's an expert that we brought on the show would go, that thing yourself and Michael were talking about earlier, if you can sound like you've been a part of the show and you sort of make a reference to be a part of it, and then also deliver your content in a way that speaks to the audience the same way the presenter speaks to the audience.
Correct.
And so Ollie is the master of speaking like his listeners. He's just a human. He's absorbing stuff that's going on in the community. He's reacting to it. He's asking the same curious questions. So when you're a guest on that show, tap into what the presenter is doing and meet them at their level.
Yep.
You don't have to be pristine and perfect. We want the real person on the radio. And I wish I could have intercepted a few client interviews before they made it onto my show to tell them that.
Well, Oliver Peterson's a big listener to this show, and his head has just swelled 4 times the size of its normal size.
And
now,
truth be known, Nick, I only work with really good professionals in there. It's yourselves and Carmen and Ollie.
Can we only have guests who pat us on the back from now on, Nick? This is great.
I think this is all we're going. This is setting the pace up beautifully, isn't it? Hey, let's talk about it, Fran. And but why do media? Like, as a finance specialist, as someone who is doing really, really well in that sector, why do you do media?
Yeah, great point. I think I'll break it down to 3 reasons, and let me kind of explain that. The first reason for a professional speaker is to be findable. I call that being findable.
Yep.
And what that means is, as a professional speaker, you want to get gigs from bureaus, from event coordinators, and so from that point of view, they're not going to find you unless you're visible.
Spot on.
And media makes it visible. The second part I also say, as you mentioned, as an expert and as someone who's also head of wealth at Nexia Perth, is that why do I need to use media? The reality is, most professional speakers and or executives and professionals have got a message to share. And what is that message? Is the expertise on the field that they're working in. And my field is finance, and it's about money, and it's breaking it down to the everyday language. The more Australians can understand how to deal with their money from a day-to-day perspective, that's kind of what drives me.
That's a noble pursuit, Fran. That's a good thing.
And so from a speaker's perspective, why wouldn't you do that? Because speakers also have a message they want to get to the wider community and also for the greater good.
Yeah.
And that's why you would use media. But the third part is also mastering your craft.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you put your hands up and work with someone like Media Stable to say, look, get me as many gigs as possible because I want to get really good at this thing called media.
Yeah, oh, no, I love that. And I think that known element is really key here, and particularly from a speaker's perspective and also too from your professional perspective. I want to work with the known person.
Yeah.
And anyone, look, putting a speaker up in front of a crowd of 100-odd people, it's nerve-wracking for the organiser to arrange someone that they don't know.
Yeah.
Or hasn't got that kind of profile that will attract an audience in the first place.
That's right.
And media is a really big part of that.
And if you can talk your way out of a tricky situation live on air, you will be able to talk yourself out of those live speaking gigs better than ever. I didn't realise this. I used to think that public speaking was this separate thing to what I do as a broadcaster. And I've since realised that it's my greatest superpower as a speaker is my broadcasting background because I can just figure it out on the fly. That's wonderful. Fran, I'd love to know from you, as a person who's got a media profile that exists outside and above and alongside your role as essentially an employee for another organisation, have you ever had the organisation that you work for kind of go, oh, this takes up a lot of your time, is this really worth it for us? What do you say to people who've experienced that kind of feedback from their bosses?
Yeah, look, that's a great point. And my encouragement to your listeners is to, I guess, be absolutely confident and hold your ground because people follow people. And so if you're out there in the media, you'll get a greater audience into that space. If I think about it, that media is almost like a plug-in to a broader audience that you would not have otherwise got.
Yeah.
So if I look at the work that I do in media, it's got me exposure to over 2 million over various platforms, and so if people follow people and you work for an organisation that you're an employee of, guess what? The people will follow you into that organisation.
Spot on.
Yeah.
It's to the benefit of that organisation. Yeah. It's the greatest investment an employer can make in their person, really, to grow their media profile. These days, especially if you're employing millennials, you need to be a very attractive option to maintain them as an employee because most millennials I know, and I'm a cusper, I'm almost in that age bracket, they're saying, I'd choose to work for me because I'm a better option than you as an employer. So you want to be a sexy employer that says, hey, we'll get you press, we'll invest in you, we'll do things for you.
One of the frustrating things for me, Carmen, and I think for the point that is coming here for employers, embrace your employees to be walking billboards, speaking billboards of your brand. Because at the end of the day, there was once the time where we used to follow brands. We would, you remember the big telecom sign and the big bank signs. They were things that you again, oh wow, that's something that we were a part of. But these days, it's the human.
Yes.
We want human connection. We want to understand what it is, the relationship there with the person. Brand is second. And a little message out to all employers out there. If you are holding back your staff or holding back the people that want to be walking billboards of your brand, of your business, of your organisation, of your industry, let them be that. Don't hold them back.
Absolutely.
And I think it's really important that you make sure that you use your assets, and your assets are your people that work within your organisation. I'd be concerned if any businesses out there these days are holding back their people.
Yeah, I mean, with the introduction of social media, you'd hope that they wouldn't be holding their employees back because it does just amplify the DNA of the business.
Correct.
Whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And so if your employees are talking about their work day, they're really kind of bringing that culture into the everyday life. And really, clients want to know that you're accessible. And this is a way that in a platform that you show them you are human, you're accessible, you have the knowledge, and come on in.
Yeah, and you can do that at any stage of business. You don't have to be getting the awesome earned media that Nick will get you at Media Stable to start this process.
Sure.
You can do it yourself.
Yep.
You can make things like this podcast. That's owned media. You're doing it yourself, and it sends the message out.
I don't know. Fran earned the right to get on this podcast, I can assure you.
Fran earned this.
Hey.
We own it.
Yeah, that's
How's
right.
that?
Hey, and to the opposite point around this, because as a business owner myself, I've got staff that are reluctant to put themselves out there, whether it be social media, whether it be professional platforms that...
I'm used to being behind the scenes.
Yeah, they're behind the scenes. Like behind the scenes, you
Nope.
can't push people into this that don't want to be. So you've got to find that unique individual, that unique, that one that wants to be the voice and wants to be an amplifier of any of the messages that you're there. It's a certain personality that's got to be there. And if you find the right people, they are so your best assets.
They're going to be your greatest cheer squad, your greatest ambassador.
Yeah.
Now, I said speakers direct. I can't believe I said that at the beginning there, Fran. And I sometimes make mistakes like that, just to reiterate. So it's global. It's a Speakers Institute.
Yes, Speakers Institute is the training organisation, and the community of speakers that come off the training organisation is Speakers Tribe Global.
Well
there you
done.
go. We've got it out there officially now.
You don't have to be perfect.
Now, correct. And I can assure you, you just don't get perfect with me, Carmen. Just letting you know. All right? This is part of my trait. Just so people know that it is me, I make mistakes all the time. But look, it is such a competitive space, and you touched in on this, that speakers need to raise their profile and media is a great platform to do that. It's not the only platform, but it's a great platform to do it. But what kind of real competitive edge does it really give them when they are featured? And I mean anything from podcasts through to Channel 7 Sunrise. What kind of real competitive edge does it give them?
Yeah, so in Speakers Institute, we talk about the different categories that you could come away with as a professional speaker. One would be an entrepreneur, so that is the expert. We were just saying before, as an organisation, why wouldn't you actually encourage that aspect? So an entrepreneur would certainly be a great public speaker, be able to talk through the business. Now, another area would be an expert authority.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the expert authority is what really sits so comfortably in that media space, because as a professional speaker, you want to know that you're going to be, I guess, engaged with your professional speaking because you know your stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
And so an expert authority, by being on media, it gives you credibility.
Doesn't it?
It gives you...
validates
It validates you.
Yeah.
And to be able to talk through your message. And so that's why you would, as a professional speaker, engage in media. It really gives you that credibility.
And what you do is you amplify it after the fact as well, making sure that it lives in perpetuity on your website. You know, there's a whole media tab on my website of all the media appearances I've ever had, not just as a broadcaster, but as a guest in my new, confidence on camera kind of guise. It just amplifies that I'm a person who's in it and I'm part of it. And Fran has the same backing for her as a finance expert. It's like, hey, I help you generate wealth. It's obvious because Channel 9 trusts me, Channel 7 trusts me, the West trusts me. It's trust from the media that means me as a viewer can trust you too.
Yeah. Look, you cannot actually pay for that. When you really come down to it, unless you're advertising, then you are paying for it. But the credibility that comes from it, Fran, what you do with that, I love. I love the way you prep, and I've seen you work the mentoring that you do with a lot of speakers as well, and in showing what you do in media as to be a shining light for them. But your pre-production, pre-media engagement and your post-media engagement is second to none. I think you make sure people know that you're going on radio or that you're in print, and then you do express the print piece yourself and put it out there to that audience that isn't necessarily reading the paper on a Monday or isn't necessarily listening to Ollie Peterson Live, Perth Live. You do that and let them know. And I think that is the demonstration of your expertise, your authority in your space, letting and reminding those that may not be working with you right now, but could be working with you in the future.
Thanks, Nick. Well, what I've also come to learn from Carmen is that repurposing your little piece of media appearance, so whatever that looks like, really kind of getting the audience engaged. And to your point, not everyone will be listening to that particular segment at that point in time, but that's not to say you couldn't kind of then repurpose that and promote it and get them to the link, because with this today, as an example here, we've got our podcast, and that's going to then go out to a wider audience. Did you know on YouTube in particular, some of the videos are clocking up billion views, and these are videos. If I think about it, even someone like Fleetwood Mac. Do you remember Fleetwood Mac going back decades?
Yeah.
Now it kind of building up a new audience and clocking up their views to the billions.
Oh, my word. My kids, when they wake up in the morning, they don't say, Dad, can we watch TV? Can I watch YouTube?
Yeah.
It's like, it's their channel.
Yeah, it's the number one hit on the internet for a reason, and it's creating compelling content that you curate yourself based on your interests, and you curate it curates, it creates something that you just are going to love and you can't take your eyeballs off of. So you've really got to be a part of that, and you do that by either making your own content or doing media and then amplifying it and putting it on the internet so everyone knows it was there. Yeah.
And they're building blocks. They're building blocks for people to find you, right? You're building your house, your media house that is creating that chance that someone is going to buy. And if you're not doing it now, look, and this is a call out to everyone, if you're not doing it right now, start today. Start thinking about this as a platform, a foundation for you to be found in the future, because they're not going to pick up, a newspaper of 15 years ago, 12 years ago and have a read. Some of it, might be online now, or a lot of it is online now, but they need to find you, and you need to be putting that out there and building it on your platform, not necessarily theirs. Yeah.
They say that it takes 7 touch points before someone would actually engage with you.
Yep.
So by building a little bit of, and curating to your point, Carmen, around the breadcrumbs of how they can find you, media is an ideal way of doing it. One particular content, for example, that I might do at Ollie Peterson, which might be a 5-minute segment, I can start to cut up into pieces of a 1-minute segment or 30-second kind of, catchphrase, or, so it really can be repurposed exponentially.
Have you formalised your strategy for that repurposing, or do you do it all yourself? Have you got a VA who's helping you? Is there staff at Nexia who are helping you do that, or what's your approach at this stage?
Yeah, great point. I wish I could say I've got it all together.
I don't have it all together either, Fran. It's okay.
But truth be known, it's quite organic. And I love that because it's quite tactile, and you can kind of build it up, because it's also building on, in my view anyway, what's topical at the moment. So if it's topical, I can bring a little bit of sound bites here, and it's
a good idea. Yeah.
I think at the end too, I mean, the production itself, and it can be quite costly, but then at the same time, if you find a good VA, a virtual assistant, I'm assuming that is for those that are a bit dinosaur like myself. But if you find that person that can help you, that they're a great asset. Yeah. But doing it yourself too, I mean, that there is there's a lesson there. There's a driver there that you can do it yourself. It's not impossible to do this, and everything is sitting on the net. If you're not using Canva or Audacity or something along those lines, they're not difficult to work with. Yeah. It's just our time that's probably the most costly of it.
Time's the hard bit, and that trial and error, but it can be incredibly rewarding. I did a lot of background stuff on radio, started in radio, learned how to edit things back then, right? But I've never edited or told stories myself on TV. I've always been the presenter. And so going into the confidence on camera thing and learning to promote what I do, I had to learn how to edit videos together. And I thought I would never do that. But now I'm making really fun reels and TikToks.
And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, if you had seen our reel when we announced that Carmen was the co-presenter, that was a cracking reel. I love that.
It was fun, wasn't it?
Oh, my God.
I enjoy it. Once I've got those little parts, I sort of lie flat out on the couch and just edit these before I watch the news of an evening, and I really enjoy it.
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a great fan of Carmen, so I'm always watching her reels. So if you haven't already jumped on, please do.
Jump on the Experts Podcast. Jump onto Carmen's Instagram. It is good viewing, good reading. And that is, I guess, at the end of the day, it's our bringing our personality out. Yeah. It's bringing who we are. And it's not just our expertise sometimes that the media is looking for. They want your personal response to it. They don't want a robot's response. No. They don't want a political response, message from politicians that don't even answer questions or anything like that.
All the right answers. No, screw that.
No, they want you. They want it personal. And if you want to sit on the fence, realised media's not the place for you, you've got to have a position. It doesn't have to be right wing, left wing, chicken wing. It just has to be. It just has to be your personal position and view.
Organic and authentic. Was there a moment for you, Fran, where you had to really, kind of step over those fears and reservations about showing the real you? What did you do to kind of get comfortable being Fran rather than a version of Fran you felt like you had to be?
Yeah, well, at the start, I guess, and this is my encouragement to anyone who's kind of, starting out. Look, I wasn't a natural speaker. And so stepping through a framework really helped me to kind of say, okay, what is it that I want to bring to this space? What is it that I want the listeners to walk away with? What would that one thing be? And so with every segment or with every presentation or invite, I always think about, well, what would the actual host want me to bring to that segment.
It's a greater way of doing it, isn't it? Yeah.
So it starts with a framework.
Yeah.
And I always build out on that framework. But you know what? Stories always tell a tale, don't they? So you've got to bring in your stories and really your own personality. I love it when I get on 6PR because, whether it's Ollie Peterson or whether I was on Carl Langdon's the other week when Ollie was on leave.
How fun is Carl? I love working with Carl. You never know what the hell's going to happen.
For everyone listening, that's Carl Langdon, former West Coast Eagles, but he's been broadcasting at 6PR now for 30 plus years.
He's a true expert broadcaster, no doubt. Yeah.
And I always listen to his fishing shows, so I wanted to bring in
so you're the one that listens to it.
Did you tell a fishing story?
I tried to, in my own little way, to bring a fishing story. I tried to relate fishing to certainly what investing looks like. So hopefully it kind of went down.
I love that, Fran. Don't you love that, Nick?
That is really good.
That's big pats on the back to an expert,
correct.
Isn't it?
And you're tapping into his ego and you're tapping into his skill sets.
Shows you're a listener of the station.
Yeah.
And that you understand he's a footy player who's into fishing and abroad, like everything.
If you've got that right rod that gets me financial wealth, can you send it my way, please, Fran? Hey, we've run out of time. Hey, what a ripper.
We could just chat for hours with Fran. I do. I hang out with Fran. She's one of my mates and she's really been a big support to me. So I'll just say that again. Thank you, Fran, for everything you've done for me.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, Fran, what a great insights into not just from a professional financial expert, but also too as a speaker. And a great message out to everyone. Trust yourself, get yourself involved. And also, I love that little message that you sent that it wasn't natural for you to do this at the beginning. And now you're the pres of the, Speakers Institute sort of side of it. It's just like, get out of your comfort zone. Yeah. Get out of it. Be comfortable, uncomfortable. Yeah. And I think you've done that beautifully. Fran, thanks for joining us. If people want to get in contact with you, how do they do it?
Yeah, you can find me on all socials. So it's Fran Hughes, a financial planner, and just connect with me.
Beautiful. Carmen, that's our first one for the year. Sorted. Done.
Love it.
Hey, we've got another big one next week, I should say. God, I'll get used to this whole podcasting thing again. It's been a little while.
You had a good holiday, didn't you, Nick?
I did have a good one. But look forward to seeing you next week when we talk to another media and another expert.
Ta-da.
You've been listening to the Experts Podcast, powered by Media Stable. If you'd like to get in contact with the team, head to mediastable.com.au.